Hi and welcome to this Blueberry Markets video update with me, John Kibler, head currency analyst. In this video, we're going to go through the week ahead analysis. We're going to go over some of the news that's coming out this week, as well as some key data points. Well, we've got quite an interesting week coming up now. Although it's not going to be mentioned here, there has been a lot of talk about the US debt ceiling, and only a week ago we had the Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen announced both to Congress and the public that the US Treasury that is recognised as the global's largest debtor could be incapable of fulfilling all government expenditure requirements by June the 1st. Now, this has created a bit of a standoff as well politically, and this has brought a sort of alarming prospect of an unprecedented default on Treasury debt. Now, we have to bear in mind that this has never happened before. It's important to note that the US has always managed to avoid a default in the past, and what we usually see is the debt ceiling being raised. So we do have to say that before, but that could obviously have some detrimental effects on the market going into this trading week. But I'll probably make another video about that because it is quite an in-depth bit of analysis to talk about. So I'll talk about that in a different type of video this week. But in forecasted releases, this is what we've got going on. We've got some CPI data out of Canada. We've got some pound data. We do have some pound labour data coming out this week as well. We have RBA meeting minutes, not featured here, but it is the I couldn't fit it on the screen. So the RBA meeting minutes is out as well. That's going to be interesting to watch from an investor point of view. Why did we see them come to the decision of raising those interest rates? Maybe we'll get some more insights into that. We do have Federal Reserve Chairman Powell speaking towards the end of the week as well, so investors are going to be keen to see what happens there, especially because we've got some core retail sales data out, and retail sales month to month seeing a potential move from -1% to 0.8%. So lots of data to be watching going into this week. Now, if we take a look at the strength meter, we can see we didn't obviously have this information last week, but prices of most currencies have moved slightly. You can see the yen down here has started to rise from that sort of low area in here, and we're starting to see a little bit of yen strength coming back into the market. Whether that'll last, we'll have to wait and see. We can also see other markets starting to move a little bit higher as well. But the ones that I really want to take a look at really are sort of the Aussie and the Kiwi. Although we're starting to see Kiwi rise, Aussie's been a little bit vulnerable. Pound is also potentially at a vulnerable position, being in the +5, so we could start to see some reversals in that pound market as well. Going on to the US dollar index then, so we've been talking about the dollar index, we've been talking quite heavily about the 101 level. Now, typically through May, the dollar can be quite strong, so maybe we're starting to see a little bit of a seasonal play here, marked with a little bit of maybe some uncertainty in the markets, and what we've had is this sort of 102 and 101 range, and here is what we've been focusing on, and prices closed outside the 102 range now, so it looks to be that the dollar is actually starting to gain some strength. So if that is going to continue, then maybe we're going to see the 103 level being tested, and even, let's say, price retests and breaks through that. We've got sort of a long-term trend line resistance coming through there, and beyond that we've got the 105.75. so we could be about to enter a little bit of a period of strength for the US dollar. I think especially if we get above this 103 handle, it could open the door for investors to start being buyers of the pound, of the US dollar again, sorry. Going on to euro dollar then, so looking at euro dollar, because it's the inverse of the US dollar index, again we have that kind of range that happened just below the 100 level of resistance. Price has traded through the range, so are we expecting price to continue to the downside? And if we are, can price come down to the 1.075 handle just through there? So that's this kind of area here where you can see we had some resistance and support. Price also breaking through a long-term trend line here as well, so that could add a little bit more weight to a potential move to the downside here. And who knows, we may even end up back at the 1.0525 handle in the future. Going on to pound then, so pound's going to be an interesting watch as well. We've got this kind of daily sort of bullish channel running up. We came into the 1.2650 handle, which were these sort of highs most recently. We had quite a large sell-off from there, so I think if that's going to continue as well, we could probably see a continuation and a bit of a breakdown. Seasonally, pound US dollar prices do come lower, very similar to Aussie actually, which is our next sort of currency to focus on. Now, we were talking about this 0.68 handle acting as resistance in the past, and you can see it did act as very strong resistance, and if this momentum is going to continue, then we will likely see the range lows of the 0.6575 being tested. It's going to be a question of what happens after the fact. You know, do we get a bounce from here? Do we get a breakdown? If we get a breakdown, where's the next sort of area? Well, the next sort of area is down at this 0.62 handle. What we did highlight before in the past was this kind of sort of flag pattern that was developing, although we did get a breach of it. Maybe it was a bit more of a horizontal sort of flag pattern that was being developed. So again, if that flag pattern was to break, then sort of you know, that move down to this area could be quite likely at that point. But we'll have to see how price reacts. I think if you want to be a seller in these type of conditions, you want to be sellers at previous highs, so maybe back towards the 0.68 is where investors would be looking to do that. Whether price gets there is a different question, so we'll see what happens going into this week. I hope you enjoyed this video content. If you did, leave it a thumbs up, subscribe to the YouTube channel to see some more Forex trading content, and I'll speak to you soon.